Okay.
Double recording.
This is to put out the fire. In case
okay. I like it. This is like the most mini 3-camera setup I've ever seen, and it's fucking sick.
Yeah, and it looks good too. Yeah, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah, I was honestly, I was watching it. I was surprised that you were able to cut back and forth.
Yeah, it does add quite a few hours to the editing process, but yeah. Skewer for you.
All right, thank you, my friend. So is this the new podcast tradition?
Yeah, it is. I did it with Brian Mark Taylor.
Oh, okay. And I only watched the Scott episode.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And he was like, "Is this?" He asked me if it was going to be tradition. I was like, "Yeah, it totally is." Cool. Oh, would you like to do the honors?
I would love to, honestly. I love any excuse to light fires I can get.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Super cool of you. I have these.
I know it was really cool that I did this. You're welcome.
Oh yeah. I mean, because you are better than me.
Well, yeah, we already established that.
Yeah. Right.
I hope that's not in the podcast, but
totally.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right.
We've already established a dominance hierarchy.
Fuck.
So these are like health marshmallows, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're like, you feel less guilty about eating them, but they're slightly less tasty.
Are marshmallows calorie dense anyway, though?
I don't know if they are or not.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the contents of them is they're essentially just sugar and gelatin.
Yeah. So I really enjoy the fact that we're having a camp out
in the middle of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's Prospect Park over there.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. This entire month has been very strange. It's like I'm getting to meet tons of people that I admire and look up to, and just
awesome. And
I'm also just like being in the middle of Salt Lake City or here or Montana or wherever else, and just like it's really surreal. It's actually quite strange.
Are there people you admire in Salt Lake City? I thought they were all just Mormons with like 8 wives.
Oh yeah. But Brian Mark Taylor is a Mormon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's Salt Lake City, and Keith as well.
Did I just insult him?
Yeah, you totally did. Yeah.
Shit. God, yeah. You're gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about how you hate Mormons?
I don't actually hate Mormons. I think it's just ever since that South Park episode came out.
Yeah.
I think it's like they're the one people. They're like Italians, Irish people, and Mormons are like the people you can still make fun of.
Well, and Scientologists too, right?
Yeah. Well, they're a cult and they're pretty scary. So I think
right.
Like it's okay to make fun of those people.
Yeah.
I have a friend that got sucked into the cult of Scientology.
Right.
And it was pretty bad. He needed a place to stay, so he signed up for the cult of Scientology. I probably shouldn't keep calling it a cult because they're going to come after your podcast.
Yeah.
But he ended up like just starting with them or whatever, and hopefully those cameras are rolling.
Oh yeah, keep going.
Okay.
I'm going to constantly be checking them.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah, he ended up joining. I think because he needed a place to stay, he's like, yeah, I'll join Scientology or whatever.
Yeah.
They ended up like getting him a $3,000 fitted suit, and then they had him stay at his campus, and then literally in 2 weeks or so, they had him like announcing this groundbreaking ceremony at a new location or something.
Right. Yeah.
Then he dipped out of California, and then they were calling him all the time, trying to get in touch with him. So they don't like if you leave. It's
strange how that stuff happens and how it's actually real, right?
Yeah,
it's it's something that actually people are affected by that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know if this is the Church of Scientology specifically, but I heard something about them keeping members inside of their church or something.
Yeah. Just like the normal fun stuff.
Oh yeah. The fun parts of religion.
Yeah, the fun. When you go to church, they keep you in the basement there for a while.
Yeah.
But I have heard about that where they especially in some of the more, I think some of the higher ups, they'll physically assault them. There's a whole show on TV, the Leah Remini show.
Right.
You should definitely watch it if you want to get your fix of Scientology.
Yeah. Will do.
Yeah. Super weird. I don't want to go on. I feel like I've already bashed large swaths of people. Just in the start of this.
You just want to go down the list.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything in particular you want to talk about, or if you want to.
I don't know. I guess the thing that I want to talk about with people specifically, it's not about technique. It's not about getting better at art. It's more of like, why do you do what you do in the first place? Like, I know a little bit about your background. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were on the path to becoming a doctor, right? Yeah. And then it didn't really feel like the proper thing to be doing, so you started studying art, and you kind of like burned the boats in a sense, and only left that as your only possible option, and then did everything to be successful at it.
That is giving yourself no other option was definitely part of that. Like, I was in school and I got really sick, and I'll go back because there's a little bit more info there, but I got really sick, and at that time I was just playing through Bloodborne for the first time.
Right.
And I don't know if you played it, but it's absolutely an amazing game. Yeah. Beautiful artwork. I loved the way it looked. I loved everything about it. And I'd always been interested in games. Like, I just play video games all the time. Yeah. And I couldn't believe, well, I obviously can believe, but it was just so amazing to me that there were people that got to do that. They got to make this as their
as a living. Right?
As a living, yeah. And I think maybe because I saw 80 diabetes patients in a row that all were not listening to my supervisor. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, wow, I don't think I want to go down that lane. Right. And so I just started skipping class and drawing all day. Right. And I left myself no other option. I was like, well, I'm going to have to retake my entire first year. Right. Or just drop out now and do that. Right. So I ended up doing that. But that's not the reason why. That's not why I started making art. That's kind of like just where the tide sort of turned. Right. But really, when I was younger, I started making art because I was in a band. Yeah. And we didn't have any money to pay artists and stuff. So I kind of just I would look at all these artists that were on Google and stuff, and on MySpace. Yeah. And I would just sort of learn by imitating them, and we put out a couple albums and t-shirts and stuff, and I got started there, and I don't know, I've just always been interested in creating stuff, regardless of what form it is. Right. And I don't know if I think for me, I don't know where the initial impetus to create stuff comes from. Right. But I remember once I started playing guitar, I just couldn't stop. Right. I developed that addiction. Right. And I don't know. I feel like that addiction just keeps going. Yeah. Not in a bad way, but I feel I don't know. It just kind of keeps propelling me forward. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
I guess it's for me, I've been having an existential crisis in relation to art for the past 3 years. Yeah. I did a road trip a couple years ago, and I went to 30 museums, and I saw masterwork paintings in every single museum that I went to, dozens. Yeah. And it's I was thinking what's the point of all this? What are we actually trying to do by making all these amazing paintings? And I was I just started getting really curious about why do people make beautiful music? Why do people make beautiful artwork? Why do they even try? It's from what what I would assume if I was just completely didn't know anything about people in general, I would think that people would only care about survival, food and just reproducing as much as possible and just sitting on the couch. Yeah. And the fact that people put themselves through the struggle of learning how to play a musical instrument or learning how to do art, it's I understand why, but it's also it's incredibly confusing to me at the same time.
I have a theory. Well, I have a couple theories. One, I think in general, obviously, communication. I think art is a form of communication, no matter what. I think. I've actually talked to Med about this a lot. The idea that the reason why we do art is solely to just communicate with other people. It's just a visual medium. And because we've had this conversation, him and I, about what kind of art would you make in the absence of
other people.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of trying to have a conversation with nobody there. Yeah. You can do it, but it's kind of defeats the purpose. So I think as part of that, the reason why people commit so much to that is like art. That's
Sketchy Man podcast. Yeah.
I think communication is part of like a survival instinct, and I think to some extent that it becomes like a weird survival instinct. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's strange to see how old art really is. I mean, like the cave paintings in Italy, like you can track people drawing pictures and telling stories for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
And the only thing it's like people are telling the same stories, but the tools have gotten better. People have become more efficient at telling those stories. But it's strange again to just think about like. I really think that I talk to a lot of people about this. It's like a lot of people want to learn the skills of art.
Yeah.
But I don't think people necessarily need art teachers. They need like therapists,
Oh, yeah. We all do.
Yeah, well, but because it's like, I know for a fact if I were completely internally motivated properly and completely fine with myself, I would have no problem being curious about art and being okay not being as good of an artist I want, or not being okay not like getting as many likes as I think I should be getting. But that's obviously not the case. And and I think if I were just like completely just okay with myself, I could just sit in a room and just like study and I'd be totally fine with it.
You find in those moments like if you are having sort of a pretty zen moment, or if you find yourself being more relaxed, you end up your art just comes out better.
Yeah.
Like you're just more comfortable. You're everything about it comes out better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I would like to stop using it as sort of that crutch. I think everybody does. Like you sort of use it as that crutch of. I was joking earlier, but you do use it as like a way of evaluating where you're at, and I think that's like kind of a perverse. It's like kind of a perverse way of like what social media does to art. To some extent. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that Instagram specifically, I think has influenced how art is made in general.
Yeah.
I think that landscapes don't look as good on Instagram as they do in person. Landscape paintings. And, I think that Instagram influences like the format is for like figurative stuff and like portraits and like and that. I'm not saying people who do that stuff are necessarily wrong, but I think a lot of people are influenced to lean in that direction because they'll get more attention and they'll get more likes. And I think that's totally fine. Like you were saying, art is a visual. It's just visual communication and communicating ideas, and you're going to communicate whatever gets more, attention and resonates with people more. But at the same time, if you're only ever compromising what you really want to say in order to just like get those likes, it's not. I don't think it's going to really serve you in the long run. Yeah,
definitely. Like it's super weird where it can send you down this like feedback loop where you get a response that's good to something, so you keep doing it. One of the things I tried to do early on when I was writing music was like I think I had a bit of this like youthful arrogance where I was like, I'm gonna write the most obscure music. I'm gonna write just what I want to hear, and like fuck everybody else, and I'm just gonna make that. I've capitulated on that a little bit with art, but not because of like a ego thing necessarily, but more of I think there's value in finding harmony with people. Whereas when I was writing metal, it's like fuck everybody else. I'm just gonna make like some angry ass music and try to like scare people or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there is something valuable in that idea of I'm going to make this thing even if lots of people don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's helped me a little bit sort of in starting out this art career of I've always just been like, okay, maybe I don't have a studio job yet or whatever it is, or my art doesn't look like this, but I'm just going to do my thing and keep going for it regardless of that. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's like the art spirit in general is like, the question that I ask everybody is like, would you be doing exactly the same thing you were doing if you had $1 billion?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you would change your art, it's like, you chose the art path because it was more meaningful than being a doctor.
Yeah.
It definitely pays less money, And it's like, if you're going to compromise what you really want to do for money, then it's like you should have just been a lawyer or doctor or something, you know. And it's like I think at a certain point you have to make a stand and be like, you're going to start doing things that you know necessarily won't get as much attention, but it's who you are. You know?
I think so.
And ultimately, I think it's ironic. It's like once you stop caring about the attention, you actually start getting more attention. You know?
Yeah, it is weird like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I had something to say and I totally forgot what it was.
Oh, good, man. I feel guilty. You're just talking about diabetes patients.
I did. I insulted the diabetics. I insulted the Scientologists.
The marshmallows are definitely not conducive to anti-diabetes.
But you were saying essentially that when you stop doing this thing to get attention, you end up ironically getting more. Yeah. And I think there's a reason why. We were talking about this before we started recording, which is like, I think when you do stuff because you're getting attention, you're very subjected to the whims of what's happening at the moment. Whereas if you kind of go, there's this artist, you probably know him, Trent Kanuga.
Oh yeah.
And
I know Trent.
For when I look at it, there's such a clear through line from the early stuff to the stuff now.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I look at his work and I go, okay, that's gonna outlast a lot of other things because he's just doing what he wants to do and he sticks to his belief on that. And so I think one of the most important things is like kind of doing that soul searching, being like, what are the things that I actually enjoy? I try to think back to me as a 5-year-old kid. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what were the things that I enjoyed doing at that age? And I don't know. I was into like Pokemon, Digimon, anime, that kind of shit, seriously. Which is why I've kind of like geared in that direction. Yeah. Because, what the fuck is the point of this otherwise?
Well, I really admire Karl Kopinski's work quite a bit. And it's not just the technical stuff. It's more of like the subject matter of what he paints and draws because it's like immature, you know? Yeah. It's like he's painting and drawing what like a 12-year-old would paint if he had the skills of a 50-year-old man, you know? Yeah. It's like lots of sexy ladies, lots of guns and orcs and, you know, pirates. And I really admire that. It's like embracing like the fact that you don't necessarily have to be more mature with your subject matter as you get older and also like give up success. You know? Yeah,
I'm just reverting. I'm just being a total man child where I'm like, well, I liked anime as a kid, so I'm just going to do that. Yeah. And I think it's fun. I'm having so much more fun. And I think you asked why I'm doing this. I think it's because there's so much fun in having a thought and then being like, okay, I can take that thought, bring it into the world, especially with like animation and then music. You could have this thought while you're sitting in the shower or you're like going to bed at night, and then it takes some work to bring that out into the world, but like it's just super rewarding to be able to bring that to life. Right.
Well, and I think it's I don't know. We were talking a lot about commitment before we recorded, you know, and I think somebody like, as I'm getting older and more sophisticated in my taste with art, the art that I like more it's way less about technical execution and it's way more about commitment. Yeah. So commitment to their personality and their vision for what they're trying to do versus like trying to pander towards, again, like what they think people are going to like. Yeah, you know? Definitely. It's like they answer the question like, what would I be doing if I had $1 billion? And it's like drawing hentai or something, you know, or drawing like just tanks or drawing like just like whatever they want, you know, or like Kim Jong-gi, I think is a good example of like
he literally
the
just
wacky
draws
shit, you know,
just draws whatever he wants.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
That's all good.
Fix this. Sketchy fan. It's,
I'm gonna wipe the sweat off my face because I'm getting sweaty.
Do you want to turn this thing off?
I think I do. I'm getting a little toasty.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm gonna look real gross on this podcast. But
yeah, it's literally on fire. So. Okay. I'm gonna make sure this is still going. I can't see that I'm recording or not, so I'm always paranoid.
You got to get mirrors, and then you can.
I thought about it. Yeah,
it's not a bad idea.
Smart. Don't touch that, by the way.
Okay.
It's extremely hot. But no, and it's like a. I know that there's a lot of bad things to say about Pablo Picasso, but something that I admire about him is, like, he could paint and draw like somebody, like a master.
Yeah.
Like he had skills, but he chose not to. You know, he chose to draw and paint very like simple stuff. You know, and that choice. Like, I remember I was watching a video of him painting on YouTube, and people were like, "Oh, I could do that." You know.
Yeah. Well, it's not about the. Yeah, I think the more you pursue any type of art form, you realize it's not about the technical execution. I think maybe there's a certain, you have to like go through that phase to be able to like use the language. Kind of like if you're a writer, I mean, I think Scott Robertson said this, like if you're going to be a writer, you have to learn the language before you go and like write a novel.
Right.
But I know when I was writing music, especially early on, I was writing like technical death metal. I'm like, oh yeah, the more notes you got in a riff, the better. It's cooler. And then you realize, like, one, that's not true. Two, you have music is nice because you have that like one-to-one feedback. Like, you're going to play a show, you see how people are interacting and engaging with it emotionally.
Yeah.
And one of the misconceptions I had was that like, oh, pop music is easy or whatever,
right?
Like, because it's simple and easy to play,
right?
And then I spend most of what I write now is more on like the poppy realm.
Yeah.
And it's so much harder.
Yeah.
Because you have so much less to work with. And I think drawing's kind of the same way. I had that like similar misconceptions of like, oh, well, if it's just technical, then it's good. And it's, I think maybe just as you do it more and more, you kind of realize that, one, the futility of that, two, the reasons why you're doing it are like generally insecurity, because it's like I need to prove that I can do this thing rather than just be like, hey, let's just enjoy the feeling of this.
Right. Well, I think ultimately there's less of you inside technically good artwork, because all you have to do to be successful is do a good technical drawing.
Yeah.
Versus with something that's more simple, again, you have way less to work with, so your chances of failure are much higher.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, yes, that stuff can be fun and impressive to look at, or impressive to listen to, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a certain point, like, I don't know. And there's already so much, like, there's so much amazingly technical art and amazingly technical music. It's like, why not just do just what you feel like doing?
Yeah. Well,
the sort of summation of that.
And I feel like I'm really glad that technical artists exist, and so can Disney artists, and so can abstract artists.
Yeah.
So like everything can exist and be okay, exist in the same world.
Yeah, definitely.
And everyone can have a meaningful contribution.
So far, there have been zero wars between artists, like physical wars. So.
Well, as far as we know.
As far as we know, I don't know.
Well, but there's one coming up.
Oh shit!
right. There's the Moderndayjames versus Procus.
Oh yeah, there is that
battle,
war.
right?
Yeah, the battle of weeb anime versus classical drawing. I mean, I'm training. I'm going to the boxing gym. I'm ready.
Yeah, Stan is just swimming, so I think he's in for it. Here, I'll show you I'll see if I can find the image.
Oh yeah. The image you were talking about before.
Yeah. It might take a second, but it'll totally be worth it.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. I'll put it on the screen.
That's a great photoshopping. That's so good.
Yeah.
You guys even have the nice cauliflower ears too.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You guys are looking good. You're looking yoked.
Yeah. I don't look like that without.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm 100% sure. But I'm pretty sure I could beat Stan in a fight.
We'll have to see.
Okay, cool.
Have you ever been in any fights?
Yeah.
Can you talk about them, or?
I guess my friends and I would fight as kids. It was never like like me attacking somebody kind of fights, but we would fight in my backyard.
Okay, yeah, I had a friend like that as well. Yeah. I really value that experience. Like, I always talk about this with my girlfriend because I was explaining why I'm getting back into I was trying to do martial arts for a bit. There is just something super like freeing about that, and I think it's another part of. Like, you see it in animals all the time, like that playful fighting. And I think sparring is kind of like the same thing. Like, you're not going out of your way to like hurt people or whatever.
Yeah.
But no real physical.
Right.
Okay. I've had one real physical altercation.
Yeah.
It was in 8th grade.
Right.
And not my friend, this guy stole my cell phone that my mom had just gotten me the day before. So I came into school and I like hit his head against the locker.
Right.
And broke his nose.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just switched over from private school to public school, so I was like, all right, I got to prove myself.
Yeah,
like, I can't be letting people like steal my shit, especially in the first week.
Yeah.
So then I broke his nose, and then that was it. I never had any problems with anybody after that. Like nobody made fun of me or anything like that. But I just said it out early, and I got my phone back.
Well, I mean, it's to me, I've been thinking a lot about how passive, at least passive we are, I guess, in our mini community of artists, and also just like we're not fighting in person or in real life, and then a lot of the people that aren't fighting are going and like trying to make the most brutal concepts and illustration, like people stabbing each other and extreme violence.
It's there under the surface.
It's definitely there. And it's I don't know. It's strange that there's a stigma against. I think we were talking about this before the podcast, but I think it's important to have some kind of physical outlet.
Definitely
aggression.
Just like find somebody on the street and just
mug them.
That is really interesting.
I don't actually do that.
I think I naturally have that tendency towards passivity, but like I think maybe this is one of the reasons why I really like art is because it pushes me to be more decisive. And I feel like a lot of my life is sort of... also, these cars are probably fucking up the audio, but I apologize.
It's totally fine.
I feel like a lot of my life has been sort of trying to overcome that passive... I don't know if that's the word, passivity or whatever. Right. And like finding ways of being just either more direct or like talk to more people, meet new people, do like...
Be less afraid. Right?
Yeah. Be an extrovert, be a Chad, essentially.
Well, but I mean, it's like, in every single piece of popular fiction, there is the like warrior that is a good man. It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, or are you like William from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Is he good?
Yeah, the Orlando Bloom's character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Fighting.
I was thinking Jack Sparrow.
Oh, well, I guess Jack Sparrow too. And I think there's like a level of like, you need to be able to contend with the world and defend yourself if you're going to be able to like, if somebody comes in, because especially as an artist, people are going to say you're a bad artist. People are going to like,
they do.
People are going to like, you fucking suck. You're the worst. And you need to have the confidence to like not let that affect you and continue to do what you do. Because like, if you know it's important, then you need to keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, like going back to the idea that artists need therapists more so than art instruction is like, I felt like when I was younger and in art school, I was being pulled in so many directions because everyone was trying to sell me their classes all the time. Yeah. And I was like, I better buy Scott Robertson's book, and then I better buy, this Michael Hampton book, and then I better buy, like Gurney's book and Richard Schmidt's book, and then just go down a list of famous art books to buy. Whereas you could spend an entire year or 2 years just on one of those books.
Yeah. And it's all about like... we were talking about that, but it's about sort of knowing the direction you want to go into. I think confidence, like you were saying, I think confidence is super important in doing this. Just like, one, to be able to withstand, just being able to withstand criticism or anything like that. Yeah. Confidence to like make a decision and then stick to it and decide like, okay, I'm going to go with this. Yeah. Even the confidence to have your own opinions on things. Yeah. Like, I see a lot of times people will ask me like what artists they should look at or what they should be striving towards, or any of those things that are like, those should kind of be internal. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go and tell you what music you should listen to. It's like, it's your choice. Yeah. And maybe it's easier when you're thinking of a field that's sort of outside of the one you're sitting and focusing on all the time. Yeah. But it is as weird as being like, hey, what movie should I like? Or,
right.
Uh-oh.
No, it's, that means it died. But I've been charging this.
I'm going to do a weird back arch thing.
Okay.
Because I hurt my back the other day. I was skateboarding the other day, and my 30-year-old back is not ready to do stairs.
Yeah. Hey, did you jump downstairs?
Yeah, not much. 3 stairs, but
That's quite a few.
it's more. It's 3 more than 0. So
Yeah. Just literally infinitely more than.
yeah. Actually, that's a good allegory for all of this. I think skateboarding is one of those. Is like a perfect allegory for art, because skateboarding is one of those things where like you have such a physical repercussion of if you're not committing to a thing.
Yeah.
And if you like imagine that when you're drawing or when you're making art, it's like, okay, when I didn't commit to doing that ollie, I like broke my ankle. Right. And it's kind of the same idea with art. It's like you are literally crippling yourself every time you don't commit to something.
Right.
I was even like, I had to work on some pieces for a client today, and I was just like, I was just feeling like a little anxious because of it's a new job and like other stuff. And I find that I was going in circles, and I'm like, well, shit, I just need to like calm down.
Yeah, just do it.
Like relax and do that. So much of it is just keeping that headspace.
It's just mindset.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I started to understand I think the if you get court-mandated therapy, it's already too late for therapy. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I think something like therapy is a preemptive. Like you do it to like clean house, just to like, get an idea of what you're thinking about and have an objective view of like who you are. It's like you're paying somebody that has no investment in you at all.
Yeah.
And their job is to tell you how you're being like a piece of shit.
Yeah,
how you're bullshitting your life and stuff.
Yeah, I use BetterHelp, not sponsored. Not yet.
Yeah.
But maybe soon. And it's awesome. My therapist is the bomb.
Yeah.
Always I go every week. And I don't know. It's important to have that outlet because like I personally have this. Even though I feel like I was kind of jokingly being negative at the beginning, I feel like if you there's something, I don't know, maybe it's spiritual or whatever, but I think there's just something really bad about bringing negativity into the world or like leaving it worse than you left it or whatever. Maybe, I don't know if that's like, I don't know. It's spiritual-ish.
It's complicated.
Yeah. So, like, especially with YouTube and stuff, I've had ideas for videos that were maybe a little bit more on the critical side, but I kind of always stop myself because I'm like, I don't want to put something out there that is hurting anybody or causing any problems for somebody.
Right.
Because everyone's dealing with their own shit. I mean, I'm sure like in some way I spread my neuroses to somebody else and then I inadvertently cause them to be stressed out about something. Right. Actually, I know that because I've had comments and messages and stuff, but like, I think in general, if you can, like, I don't know, I take issue with like a lot of channels on YouTube or people that kind of thrive on this ecosystem of criticism and
drama. Yeah.
Well, drama is the really extreme example of that, where you're just like kind of exploiting things that happen and people's struggles, and then just make a living off of that. Like, I don't know if there's an afterlife or anything, but it can be good.
Well, I feel like I don't know exactly what I mean when I say this, but I feel like this trip has affirmed my belief that there is a God.
Yeah.
Which is really strange to say because I've been a virgin. I don't know if I'm an atheist, but I've been like not able to like not able to commit to that idea that there is a God.
Yeah.
And I think that like the thing that is good is anything that gets swayed. It's getting quite loud. The thing, like my definition of good and evil is like, evil is anything that gets us closer to the Holocaust, and good is anything that gets us further from the Holocaust.
Yeah, that seems like a good.
Well, and maybe it's like if, like, you like me saying something bad about somebody else or something gets us like a little bit closer to our version of the Holocaust. Like, whatever that means exactly, If I make somebody feel like less welcome to share their opinion with me, so they're less welcome, like they feel just less welcome in the world, then they might like be more of a shut-in, and then their kids become more of a shut-ins, and it's this like domino effect of negativity.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of see it. Just, I mean, I don't want to go into it, but just like all the sort of political stuff is so emotionally driven and has pretty much like no basis in reality, or so much of it has no basis in reality.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the thing that I've been realizing is like I don't believe in the mob, but I believe in the individual.
Yeah.
Like individuals in general are incredibly kind to me. Like I'll be, in the middle of the country and I'll need help from somebody I'm completely different with. Politically, And
sorry.
And they'll help me, and we'll have a meal, and we'll talk about meaningful things. But the second it comes to like politics and agendas and ideologies, then it becomes like kind of a hostile conversation.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Sketchy fan.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so. Because part of me would think, okay, people are so emotionally connected to these things because it directly affects them.
Yeah.
But in so many ways, it doesn't. Like, it almost just becomes like a sports match, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And people get like when you go to sporting events or whatever, it's just like people just being irrational because it's fun to be irrational.
Yeah.
Sure. And like you hate the other team for literally no reason other than they're wearing a jersey, and then that's it. So I think there's some sort of natural drive to that, and it might even be tied into what we were talking about with art of like they're just committing to the one idea or whatever it is.
Well, I was talking about this before we were recording, but I think that art and politics are very much a religious experience where it's like you commit to your brand of art that you enjoy, or maybe it's the first one you're exposed to even. And you're like, this is the right way to do it. Any other way, like learning perspective, that's the only way to do good art, or learning how to figure draw, or learning whatever. That's the only way of being a person who can say meaningful things.
Yeah.
And we were both saying that I also know for a fact that I'm an idiot, It's like I know that every single day I learn about an entire thing that I'm just completely incompetent at.
Yeah.
Whether it be like building a car, or watching people do construction, or, watching people play music, or anything. It's like they're just, I could spend decades learning those things and never be as good as they could be,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's strange.
It is weird. It's just a matter of how you choose to focus yourself. And I think, I think you have to like, you have to always keep your ego in check in both directions. Like I'll wait for these cars. But like your ego can go in both directions. And just because, like, you'll learn something and go, wow, I'm the shit. Or you'll look at somebody who's absolutely amazing and go, oh, wow, I'm like the worst person ever. I suck.
Right.
And so you just have to kind of realize that neither of those are true.
Yeah.
It's fine. Humble yourself to the idea that you don't know things and you don't know, like, the correct way of doing stuff necessarily. Like, not that you don't know the correct way of doing things, you know a way of doing things.
Yeah, right.
And it's just one approach. It's just... it's like your survival mechanism for doing this sort of thing. And that applies even just in art itself. It applies to everything else, like you were saying, even like you were saying doing construction. I know for a fact I'm bad at that. I've tried it.
Right.
Didn't work out super well.
Yeah.
But like when you're tackling a piece or something like that, and I don't know, you can't keep going at it the same way, or you hit these roadblocks and you realize the roadblock keeps coming up because you're just going about it the exact same way.
Yeah.
And I found that as soon as I just sort of like go into chaos mode,
right,
then I like kind of get the turbulence going again. And it sounds very like yin and yang, but I'll give a tangible example. Like I feel like with drawing specifically, I was super stiff and really just uncomfortable with making dynamic poses and all that kind of stuff. And then I hung out with Med, and I was watching him draw, and he was just super loose, really just flowy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I'm not doing this the right way, or I'm not doing this in a way that, or like I've established a way that I think is 100% the right way.
Right.
But it is just a way of doing it. And once I started introducing these other elements, it got me more in the direction of where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so I do think humbling yourself to be like, yeah, I could be 100% wrong about this.
I'm pretty sure you're right. I mean, I was reading this book called Mere Christianity on my way here, just I was listening to the audiobook, and it explains Christianity in a way that's like what they actually believe, no dogma. It's like the purpose of all the stuff without like all the, Jesus is the best. And it's by C.S. Lewis, and he was explaining the idea of repentance, where it's like, if you are a CEO at a company and you lose your job and you lose everything, the right thing to do isn't to be sad for yourself and do nothing.
Yeah.
The right thing to do is like go work at Starbucks or McDonald's and just like start over, and being able to humble yourself, that's like part of that's like the path,
Yeah.
And I think the spirit of art is constantly humbling yourself and being like, I'm really good at this one thing, so that does not mean I'm really good at this other thing.
Yeah, I keep finding that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always comes up where you're like, I don't know. Sorry, I moved as if I was looking at something.
I thought you looked like there was a bug here or something.
I'm just zoned in on one spot.
Yeah.
For what, I don't know, when I'm talking, sometimes I like zone in on a spot.
Yeah.
I just get like really weird about it. Yeah, I think you just constantly find areas where you just have to like, you might, you learn one thing, so then you've assumed that you now can do all these other things, and then you try them and you go, oh shit, okay,
oh god,
I can't do that.
Right. Well, for me, it's highlighted my insecurity for sure. It's how prideful I can be and how like quickly I can be like really just down on myself.
Yeah.
Where it's like I think I'm okay at drawing figures, but when it comes to doing anything that's like hard surface, I just fall apart. And it's like I was talking to another friend about this, where the Watts Atelier has a boot camp every year, and like an illustration boot camp where a famous illustrator will come and teach us how to draw for like a week straight. How to illustrate for like a week straight. And I thought because I'd done a ton of figure drawing that I would be able to make something decent in oil. I'd never oil painted before. I was like, oh yeah, it's fine, And I made like an embarrassingly bad painting, And I was like, what the fuck, man? I thought I was doing it. I thought I was doing all the right stuff. Studying anatomy and,
Yeah, it's so weird. So how have you decided to manage that now? Like, do you still get to that same level of feeling bad when you overcome a mistake? Or do you think this trip and all that has helped you kind of overcome that a little bit?
I think it's a couple things. It's like, one, being around a lot of artists that are way better than me.
Yeah.
That's really humbling. And then the other thing is like letting go of the idea of being a professional concept artist.
Okay.
For a long time, that was like, if I don't do that, then I'm not a successful artist.
Yeah.
And in my own definition of what I thought successful art was. And when I let go of that, I was like, it gave me the freedom to actually go pursue the things I actually really wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's made art way more fun looking, like letting go of the outcome, letting go of like.
Yeah. That is the 100% what's fun about it. Like, I fucking love just sitting on the couch. I'll like just sit with a sketchbook and I can just draw. And it's so much fun. And you don't have to worry about it being good. You don't have to worry about it being bad. Just do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I learned to start embracing that more from Steven and talking to him. And also just thinking back to how I used to draw when I was a kid. I used to just sit and fill up sketchbooks and not
care.
Didn't need to be anything. Yeah. So the more you can simulate that, I think the better off you'll be, and the more you'll just enjoy it. It's getting a little weird with clients now because I am finding myself like getting in that stress mode, because now I literally do have to I am now legally bound to like the outcome to some degree.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of credit to guys like Steven who can say like so fucking level-headed and not get overwhelmed.
Yeah. But I'm sure that comes with like years of being overwhelmed. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it's a. It goes back to the $1 billion question. It's like if you suddenly became the best artist in what you define as being the best artist, would you still draw and paint?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like at that point, it's not about the end result. It's all about the process. You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think at a certain point, people stop caring about like I don't think Ian McKeag cares that he designed Darth Maul. You know, a lot of other people might, but he's like that doesn't affect how he feels that day. It's like, you know, he probably cares just about like what he had for breakfast and if he gets to like go for a walk or something. Not necessarily like if he's working on all these big movies and stuff.
Also, the dopamine rush of having some sort of like big name thing wears off within a week,
or like maybe an hour.
Maybe an hour. I gave it a pretty big window. It wears off quickly.
Yeah. And it's like, but you know, maybe the valuable thing, and this is a cliche, but the valuable thing is the process that it took to get there, and not the end result.
Yeah.
I found like whenever I do something that I'm really proud of, and I finish it, I have a few weeks afterwards of just feeling kind of lost. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, it's like I achieved this goal, and I know I have nothing to work towards. So, you know, it's.
So then you just put another goal in the way.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to keep. You know, it's a never-ending process of just trying to.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah, I get why this is like so important because it does create this sort of like treadmill of futility where, you know, you accomplish whatever goal it is you set out to do, and then you put another one in there, and it doesn't make your overall life experience happier. Mm. So that's why I applaud you for doing this. I think it's fucking sick.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
I found, I don't know, either like sometimes with work I have to like schedule in my fun or whatever it is, but I find if I don't do that, I just feel like my soul is being sucked out if I don't spend that time to hang out with people and embrace the community. I love living here because I mean, I have my dog, so it's super nice, and I get to just chat with everybody on the street and whatnot. And like, I love the feeling of community, and it's sad to some degree that as artists we always like kind of ostracize ourselves and put ourselves in like a little closet. And I work from home, so I'm just sitting in my. I have a little studio room, and it's like, I personally want to have that sense of community in person and just be able to be around people. Right.
Well, I feel like that's the benefit of being in a studio, you know?
Yeah,
you're just around people. You get to like work on cool projects. And,
you
know, and I think that's the ideal. It's just how do people get there, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day where I think everyone's goal is fundamentally the same, whether it's like somebody who's homeless or somebody who's a billionaire or somebody who's like an Olympic athlete. They're just like trying to feel validated based on what their values are. You know? That you know, like I don't really care about being an Olympic shot putter, but to somebody that's like the most important thing on the planet. You know, and I'm glad that they can find a lot of meaning in that. You know,
100%. On this note, which is actually kind of funny, I was thinking about. I think it was Bobby Chiu who said artists are going to be the next rock stars.
Yeah.
Which I vehemently disagree with. I love Bobby Chiu, but I wanted to talk about that. But it reminded me of. I thought about it. I think it's relevant to this because, like, I think it gives the wrong message for what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of makes the purpose of it glory and I don't know. It makes the purpose of it, like, attention. It is attention seeking at that point.
Right.
And the other sentiment that I kind of disagreed with it in there was that artists aren't getting the respect that they deserve in comparison to musicians.
Right.
But I actually think it's like kind of the reverse, because I think if you look at songwriting, you look at the music industry, like you might have 18 people write one pop song, but then all the credit gets given to one person. They get all it's all concentrated in a figurehead.
I mean, even for the bands that I really like, the famous ones, like I was a big fan of Green Day for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know Billy Joel Armstrong. I don't know the other members of that.
Trey Cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I forget the drummers.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, actually, Trey Cool might be the drummer, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, but it's like I probably listen to a Green Day song at least once a week, just like in a shopping mall or something. But I think that artists. I think you're right. I think that an individual artist does get a lot of glory, but I think you are right in the sense where, like, the goal of art is not to be the most famous artist or even the best. You know? It's to say what you want to say. You know.
Yeah. And
I think that like, just by the nature of you posting on like anyone posting on Instagram or posting on YouTube or doing anything or saying something, like you want people to look at their stuff. You know?
Bumping.
But yeah, no, it's. I don't want this podcast. I don't want the point of it to be like. I don't want it to be successful. I mean, I do from like I would like to have more money point of view, but I would rather it be a collection of honest conversations with people that I admire rather than just like me trying to like pander and you know, try and do things that are popular. You know?
Yeah, I think it's like it sort of, I don't know, ruins it. It doesn't make it fun otherwise.
Yeah. Right. And it's like and when you're seeking external validation, I think you lose a part of yourself, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
And when you're seeking the external validation of like a million people or something, you're going to be pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah, I know this as somebody that has sought external validation for most of my life. And it's like...
I don't want to sound like I'm calling you out or...
No, I'm calling myself out.
Yeah.
No, I'm calling myself out. Because like all of it, like all, especially coming from like a music performance background, like that is what a concert is. It's like a physical instantiation of external validation. It's like, I mean, at least for me, it was more about that than making money or anything. It was like, hey, I want you guys to know that I made some badass shit, and I want to see people beat each other up to it.
Yeah.
So that was like, that was the goal. And I think to some degree I kind of vacillate back and forth between like the things that I try to pursue are things that I just would be passionate about even if I wasn't doing those things. Like the music I listen to, I would still listen to even if I didn't write it. And the art that I'm into, I would still probably be watching like anime and stuff even if I didn't make it. So it's not that I'm not interested in those things, but I do sometimes, well, I find that if I can get myself in a state where, like not to repeat myself, but if I'm not thinking about that, then the work itself comes out better.
Right.
But as soon as I start, pandering at all or being like, oh, well, now they're expecting this, or I it's just not being present. That's what it is. It's just you're projecting yourself somewhere else into the future, the past, whatever. And you're not just sitting there and enjoying like this pretty awesome meditative act of just being able to like conjure images from your fucking head
from nothing. Well, and it's
cool.
I don't know. I think it's cool that you're repeating yourself because it always comes back to the same concepts. It's so easy. It's so simple. I mean, it's not easy, but it's so simple. It's like it's like don't fucking lie. It's just like tell the truth. To do the things that you really want to do and know why you're doing it. It's like I meet people all the time who are like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow, but they don't actually mean that. They're like, because they're going to go to work tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
a really good point.
They're just saying that. But like, I was talking to. Do you know Morgan Weisling?
Actually, no.
He's a Western painter.
Okay.
Like top end, sells painting for tons of money, and he was saying that it's like you can explain the fundamentals of drawing and painting in like 15 minutes or an hour or something. Like gesture and color and all that stuff. You can like present it in a way that's like understandable in less than an hour, but it takes decades to actually make and do something with it. And even then you have no guarantee, right? And again, I think it goes back to the idea where it's like, people, I think to become an artist of like that says meaningful things, it's way more about like committing yourself to something and knowing you're going to be bad at something else. Like committing yourself to perspective and knowing that because you're focusing on just perspective, you're not going to be as good at figure. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And to, you know, same thing with music. It's like you probably don't play the violin, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I barely even play any music at this point. Like, I even to that degree, like I had to make that distinction. And I just use that as a way to just relax now. Yeah. It's,
right.
Which is nice because then I have like absolutely zero expectations on it. I just pick up a guitar or go on Ableton and just play stuff and just go and fuck it. It's just fucking experiment. Another thing that I learned from music that sort of translates into art really well is this idea of like you were talking earlier about, I think it was Craig Mullins, who doesn't repeat himself with a painting, and it reminded me of this one time that a friend and I wrote a song where we were literally fucking, I had like a notebook and he had a fan. Oh, we got cars coming here, or a police car coming.
Nice. Coming for us.
Oh shit. He had like just a fan or something like that, and we were making music by taking this book and shoving it into the fan and like creating a rhythm and then singing over it. Yeah. And I always find that like in those really relaxed moments where we do some just wacky shit, I'm always coming up with better ideas than had I sat and thought it out. Or like those really impromptu moments always produce something better, more genuine, more memorable, and super fun.
Yeah. Well, and it's generally, you make something without the purpose of it being seen. Yeah. And that's stuff you really care about, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, it really is a strange, like trying to make money off art is a really cryptic, strange thing to do. It's like finding that balance between like trying to pay the bills and also being honest to yourself.
Yeah. I kind of go in, the way I sort of manage it or try to manage it is like go back and forth. Yeah. So once I see that my expenses are not weighing what I'm bringing in, I'm like, okay, I'll focus on making some money. Also, I have a lot of renewable income sources with the Gumroad and Patreon and stuff. So if you can sort of, I think as an artist, it's really important to try to like make those passive incomes. Yeah. That way you have those moments where you can kind of just draw and relax.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, for the last 3 years, most of my money has just been coming from the first 2 years of my YouTube thing. Yeah. So I'm really fortunate that is the case, because then I was just like, okay, well, I can just draw and like get more comfortable just sketching for
being
fun.
yourself. Yeah. Right. Well, I was talking to Matt about this. It's like, you know, trying to find a situation where you get to simulate what it's like to have $1 billion. You know. Yeah. It's like where it's like, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever have $1 billion, but at some point I'll have enough money to not worry about my expenses.
I hope you don't have $1 billion, because it's going to change you in some way, and I think you will be a worse person for having $1 billion.
Well, I would take a skydiving today, for sure, if I had $1 billion.
That'd be fucking sick.
Yeah. But I think it's like like once you have your expenses covered and everything that you want practically, like of course you might buy a Ferrari if you had a ridiculous amount of money, but you probably won't, you know?
I won't.
And it's like, but like once you have your house, food, video games, music, like art supplies, you want
probably like 20 pets, but yeah.
Like tons of dogs and stuff. But it's like that might be less than $1 million in terms of just buying everything that you could ever possibly want, you know?
Yeah.
And once you realize, it's like, oh shit, I don't actually want that much, you know? Like like I was talking to a friend about this, where he was saying like, I kind of want to go work at Starbucks because it, like he's fine financially, but he's like, it gives me an external thing to go and do. Like, so meaning that if I don't go to my shift, that means I'm disappointing people, and it's like, it affects them, you know, and I also get to have the reward of like, you know, making people food and coffee and stuff.
My brother and I used to do catering almost for that exact reason, because it was just, it was so, I mean, obviously it was nice to have some money, but we were living at home, so we didn't really have any expenses at that point. but it almost always ended up being a really funny experience. We used to do this catering, worked for this catering company out in the Hamptons. So we'd always end up in like these really weird situations where, like, I don't know, my brother did, I think it was like Lady Gaga's some weird fundraiser thing, and rich people always do like the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
Like they just had nude models with sushi being delivered on them. Like it was super weird.
Yeah.
But all of the events would always end up being really funny in some sort of way. Something would go wrong, and then it would just turn into a total shit show. Amusing.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
One time we did set a table on fire by accident.
That's pretty awesome.
It's not awesome, but it was also...
It's a good story to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like that's the kind of stuff you actually can't buy. You know, it's more meaningful than like if you just like worked at a bank and just help people open checking accounts or something. You know, you probably would have made more money doing that, but it's like less meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. So, on that note, is that I'm assuming that's the reason behind the reason behind this whole trip. I kind of want to know a little bit more about how this was started, the genesis of this idea, and like.
Well, I guess it's like I really like talking to people.
Yeah.
And I found that like I'm way better at communicating with words than I am with art. You know, just like, and I also enjoy it way more. You know, I feel like with images you don't get like no one knows who you actually are based on your images. They they get a rough idea. You know. But they don't know like that you play guitar. They don't know anything really, and I feel like so many people that I admire that are artists don't have that much like of themselves out there. And I'm not saying you don't, but it's like a if I could.
I don't, but
if I could somehow get like a recording of what somebody's actually like when you're talking to them face to face. You know, that's kind of the goal. You know.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like I'm surrounded by some of the best art teachers on the planet being around Proco, you know? And it's strange that, like, I can go hang out with, you know, all these art teachers and have one-on-ones with them and, like something that you couldn't pay money for, really, you know? And I found that I actually don't give a shit at all. Like, I actually cannot force myself to go and learn from them, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, it was strange. It's like that was something I was seeking intentionally, and then when I was finally there...
Are you not giving a shit because, like, they're not sharing their personality, or are you not giving a shit because it's like, I don't care about art at this point, I just want to know you as a person?
Yeah, it's more about that. It's
okay.
Like, you know, when you detach the, like, artist from the art, it's like they're completely different from who they are as a teacher.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like they actually might not like what they do, you know? And it's like, it doesn't really make me feel good to want to learn from them.
I don't really like teaching very much, but I'm open about that with everybody I teach. I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. And I think for that reason, I've stepped away from it.
Right.
It's definitely like, I think it's the more lucrative portion of art, it seems like. But it's the same thing. If you don't want to go to work, why are you doing it?
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's like the whole podcast is more just about like, my dad was really successful in comic books and board games and stuff, and he could pretty easily go and probably get me some really cushy job at some fancy studio somewhere, and it's strange to have access to like the best teachers and some of the like potentially nicest jobs, and when I really think about what I would rather be doing, I'd rather be in this van talking to people, you know?
Yeah.
Like those places, they are cushy and comfortable, and they can give you a lot of personal satisfaction in the short term. But like you were saying before, like working on a big thing lasts for like an hour, and then it's all just about your day-to-day habits.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like having somebody that can tell you not to take a vacation because they, need you for an extra spreadsheet or something.
Yeah.
I think it's a truly like, I think it's not the way people are supposed to live.
No, it's not. It's not how we're wired. It's like, I don't know. We're supposed to be doing stuff. We're supposed to be active doing. I mean, I try to do it as much as I can. I do have a question though. Have you been drawing on this trip at all? Do you find yourself
yeah,
drawn to it?
Oh yeah. I'm doing a lot more sketching.
So then the love is there. Right?
Oh yeah. The love is definitely there.
Yeah.
But when I remove the pressure of it, it's like, I mean, I've had urges to like, just through Proco, just like start teaching and try to, make money that way.
Yeah.
Which I probably could make a lot of money if I did that. But it's like whenever I tried to do it, it didn't feel right. Just kind of like,
yeah,
there's like a push against it. And I might come back to it at some point when it's more meaningful, but it's going to be a while.
Well, I think you're smart for that though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm glad for having done all of the things I've done at this point. I don't think it's good to regret any of your decisions that you make. Like those were all decisions that are important for shaping who you are.
Yeah.
I feel like all you can do is just keep sort of pushing in the direction of being yourself and kind of creating. Yeah, it's like find those daily habits that make you happy and
right.
Yeah. And I find it hard, especially, I find it hard to figure out what that balance is.
Yeah.
Like, I'll notice, oh boy, this truck.
Yeah.
I'll notice that I have this interesting thing happen where I'm sitting on the couch and I'm drawing, and then I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go draw now. And it's like,
right.
There's this weird cognitive dissonance of I'm literally doing the thing here and it's comfortable and I'm having a blast. But then as soon as I step into the studio now, there's all these other expectations on it.
Yeah, right.
And it's funny because it's even just the difference of like being in another room, being in another environment, and doing it for another purpose.
Right.
And I'm still the same person making the drawings. They're in in a relatively similar style. There's nothing different about it. It's just this now perceived external pressure because of it being for somebody else.
Yeah.
That needs to be. I don't know. It's
strange.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. I mean, it's like a. Again, I really think going back to the idea that.
I hope any of this audio is usable. By the way, I'm very sorry. You're gonna have to do some like noise reduction.
Oh yeah. Again, it's part of the process. It's like I think it'll be definitely okay for at least parts of it.
I'm down to re-record if it's really unusable.
Yeah. I think we'll be fine. But,
all right.
I do really appreciate that. But I feel like have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning?
No.
Do you know what it is?
I don't.
It's a book by a guy named Viktor Frankl, and it's very cool.
Yeah.
Like, could you describe to me what you think Viktor Frankl looks like?
Viktor Frankl is balding in the center. He's got white hair on both sides. He's got a little bit of a hook nose, not too much, and like maybe a little bit of a double chin.
Except for the double chin.
Okay.
I think you're essentially spot on.
Okay, good.
But he's a Holocaust survivor.
Okay.
He accounts his journey of going into a concentration camp and seeing his wife killed and all of his family members killed and still finding meaning in spite of that.
Yeah.
And he quoted Carl Jung, I think, in his book where it's like, if you have a why, anyhow is easy,
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with art. It's like if you understand why you're doing something, the how is like, oh, of course. Like you can go and embrace, like me doing this trip, I'm sleeping in Walmart parking lots and staying in strangers' houses, and like it's like it'll be like 100 degrees at night and there'll be nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But it's like the why of that, I have that. It's like I'll just figure it out, and it's totally worth it for me to be uncomfortable physically to be able to experience all these other things I'm doing, because the opposite of that is like being comfortable physically but then having like a spiritual existential crisis every day,
Yeah.
Which is way worse.
The why is completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like just to, like Fight Club, it's like I'm gonna get all the IKEA furniture and
Yeah.
and then over time fuck yeah. I want some crazy shit to happen. I want like a police officer to come and like talk to us.
Yeah, well, I was just telling you again before the podcast that somebody was shot on my block.
Oh,
We're just sitting, and Carl and I were just sitting on the couch, and you just hear a pop, a little bit of a scream.
Yeah.
Then we went outside. We see eventually there's a police line, and then this morning we were walking the dog. And there's just a literal just trail of blood going down the entire block. Yeah, I live in the ghetto now, apparently.
Yeah. That's not that far from here.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it just turns ghetto, and then we're just like, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
New York.
And we were playing a little bit of CSI. We were like, oh wow, the pool of blood gets thicker here.
Yeah.
He must have stopped. Maybe he took the bullet out.
Right.
Trying to be forensics people, but
right.
We're on the cushy part of the park right now, so I don't think we're gonna have anything too crazy happen. Like maybe some really rich woman's dog might run into the street, which I wouldn't wish for that to happen.
It'd be interesting for the podcast.
It would be interesting for the podcast. It would be
pretty horrible, but
it would change the tone of it a little bit.
It would. Yeah. Yeah.
But what were you saying before I derailed this? You're talking about the why.
Oh yeah, the why. It's like I don't know. It's like I was sitting and I got a meal with Ahmed and do you know Stephen Davidian?
No, I'm horribly unaware of so many artists.
He's a friend of Ahmed.
Okay.
Helps him out with a lot of stuff. We were sitting in the steak place and Med got like the most pathetic steak I've ever seen for $30. It was like this big. It was like that thick, and it was like he asked for medium rare, and it was black on the inside. And we were talking about how it's like how ridiculous it is we can complain about getting this steak.
Yeah.
How like privileged we are to be able to sit here and like complain about this amazing like 500 years ago the steak we wouldn't have the steak, or it would be like moldy and full of maggots or something.
Yeah.
And our standards are so high for our lives that we get to like complain about stuff like that.
Simple shit.
Yeah. And I do the same thing, and it's like a, I'll instead of like going and doing some fun, awesome thing, I'll go and like spend time on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, or I'll complain about like my job, and I really enjoy what I do, and it's like, I think when I am complaining about stuff, I'm losing the why, Yeah. It's like, of course I'll go and do some, like I'll live in a van, I'll go do some crazy shit, but there's no why to it, It's not as meaningful to me as like you were talking about urban climbing,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like the why of that is like crazy. It's like fun.
It's great.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just purely if you look at a building, they're just so climbable.
Yeah.
So I started seeing the world as in like I see those bricks and I'm like, oh, I could definitely hold on to that.
Yeah.
And so then I'd get really excited. And then I just started doing that everywhere.
Are you talking about that building or that building?
I'm talking about this one here. Now it looks a little bit more difficult, but you see those like on the facade, there's those like little hand grips there.
Yeah.
You could definitely climb it.
Oh, for sure.
And you find that, if you like compared to bouldering, these are all like V2s or V1s. You could do it and be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a lot of just being like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I liked overcoming that fear of putting myself in physical harm. I think I like that in general because it's such a good metaphor for everything. And that's why, skateboarding and climbing were always things that I'm drawn to. It also might have been that I just liked Jackass as a kid, so I was just obsessed with that type of daredevil-ish type behavior.
Right.
And it is also like an allegory for overcoming your own weakness. It's like, okay, there's this thing people are generally afraid to do. Or one of the things I kept saying about when I was climbing was, we never think about the Z-axis. Right. We're always walking around a city and it's like left, right.
Yeah.
But we don't think about up.
Yeah.
And when you think about up in a city, it's the most fun.
Yeah.
I went to Austin, Texas, which is not a very vertical city. But there's that one, have you been there?
Yeah.
There's that one block where there's just like bar, whatever, just a whole line of bars. And I remember my friend Connor and we just kept climbing up to different rooftop bars and then going to the next one and literally bar hopping.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best experiences in my life.
Amazing.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. We need that in life. Like,
absolutely. Well, I guess part of the thing I'm trying to figure out is like, why is that stuff more meaningful than pursuing something that's like, that makes more sense, like making more money,
Well, because making money. I think money is fake.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to go too far into that.
No, I agree with you.
But it's like, it's literally just this concept we made so we could like manage goods and things.
Yeah.
So money is inherently unmeaningful because it's like, it has nothing to do with anything. Like, if I just buy a steak, I had nothing to do with the creation or preparation or catching of that steak. It's like, it's just there.
Yeah.
And so I think these things are meaningful, one, because they're full body they're full body experiences. Like your life, like when you do something dangerous, your life is on the line to some degree. And I think that implants, like that definitely solidifies it in your memory. But it's interesting that then gets turned into a positive.
Right.
And I think maybe it becomes solidified as a positive because you mustered up the courage to do something that was difficult and potentially life-threatening. And so now you know you can do that again, or you can do something even harder next time.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about the idea of vision. You know, it's like when I really believe that the problem with people isn't the lack of meaning in the world, it's their ability to see meaning, you know?
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friend about this today where I used to be, when I would be in San Diego or Los Angeles or Orange County, or I lived in Connecticut for a while, I used to think like, oh, this town sucks, there's nothing to do here. But I could have like joined a sports team, or I could have like read like every single book in the library, or I could have like just drawn or played music, or you could go down the list of things that you could, or find rocks or something. And I didn't do that. I was choosing to be lazy and bored instead of going and pursuing those things because I was afraid.
Yeah.
I think going and doing those things, they like climbing mountains or climbing buildings or running miles or something. You know, it's like that makes the world less scary in terms of what you go around seeing.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Like I've been getting into cycling a lot over the past couple of years, and I've done a couple of longer cycling trips. Like nothing that's like insane, but for me, it's a lot. Like I did San Diego to San Luis Obispo, and
that's awesome.
Boston to New York, and New York to Syracuse.
Shit.
And it's like the first trip I did was Boston to New York. That was about 250 miles, and then New York to Syracuse was about 300 miles. It was over the course of a few days. So it wasn't all at once. And then San Diego to San Luis Obispo was like 375 or something. And, there's something about it that it's like I wasn't making any money. I was completely by myself. I was just, doing this like thing that I saw as really difficult every day, and it made my life way more meaningful because I can continue to do that. Like if I'm feeling depressed or sad or meaningless, I can just go and ride my bike really far,
Yeah.
And there was something that was like liberating about that, where it's like my life never has to be meaningful or meaningless ever again,
Yeah.
And it's like I had to earn it, I had to earn the meaning, I had to earn the ability to see it. I had to like level up or something.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm almost maybe just disagreeing with the word of meaning, in the sense that like there's not necessarily a meaning in you riding a bike to, like, in the grand scheme of like a narrative, you riding your bike from Boston to New York.
Right.
It's like the meaning is just doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I think I know that's what you're saying. I guess what I'm trying to be, just for clarification, if anyone, like, if people are listening, is like, I think people hear the word meaning and then they think, okay, well, I have to be like Da Vinci or some sort of meaningful person in history or something like that. And
right.
Why?
Well,
you're gonna be dead. Who cares?
It's been weird working for Proco because I'm always like, I'm on the forums, and I do those live streams occasionally, and a common question we get is like, I'm behind my peers. How do I stop being behind? And I think it's like, it doesn't fucking matter where you're at artistically. Like if you're 50 years old and a beginner, it's like you should fucking embrace being a 50-year-old beginner.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's like the meaning comes from the struggle. The meaning comes from embracing. It's like I think you're right. People do mistake meaning with like being famous or
it's also kind of fun being a beginner. Like I started taking hockey lessons.
Yeah.
And I like when I train with this kid who's 8 years old and he's better, way better than me. And there's something so funny about that. Like I'm 30 years old and this fucking 8-year-old is like literally doing circles around me. But it's exciting. It's fun. It's like, it's so awesome. And I don't know if the difference with that and art is that something about art feels more personal, or if it's that the types of personalities that are going to it are more, what's the word? Like the types of personalities that go towards art are drawn towards that type of thinking where they can't be worse than somebody else.
Yeah.
But even within my own brain, like I find more insecurity with art than I did when I was a beginner, just like skating around.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a level of commitment. Like with skating, I didn't necessarily think anything was going to come of it. I was just like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Right.
And then with art, obviously, I have a lot invested into the idea of being an artist. So I think maybe that's the difference there. Is like a lot of people that are pursuing art are now going to base their identity around this thing.
Right.
And my girlfriend always is really good about this, talking about how, you know, you have to be a person outside of this thing.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do that when you're, you know, because realistically, to have a career in it, it does take so much of your time and effort. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. The two are almost contradictory to some extent.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's like I was talking to a friend about this, where it's like he stopped identifying himself as an artist and more of just somebody who sculpts or just somebody who paints. It's like sculpting and painting is the same thing as just like going for a walk or just or like riding your bike or just like going skateboarding. It's not like part of your identity. It's just something you do, you know? And I think the second you start tying, it's like, I'm an artist. That means I have like ways that I can fail at this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're like losing the ability to have fun being an artist. You know?
I still have to get to that level, but that's a great way to think about it.
Well, it's part of like, I'm really scared of having a following, honestly. Cause like,
it's hard.
Well, I mean, it's like, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I'm sure you could relate to this, but I like being around Stan and just like people are starting to like take photos with him and like recognize him on the street and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I can see it kind of makes him a little bit uncomfortable, you know? And I think it's hard to detach yourself from the outcome of just having fun being an artist, because you are like I read the Proco comments on the video sometimes, and it's like, oh, you're the master artist, or you're the best artist I've ever seen, or any of that kind of stuff. And it's like, to have that pressure takes away from, like, you know, like if you were just to like paint exactly what he wanted to paint, people might care less, you know?
Yeah. It's never anywhere in the middle, by the way. Which is, I think, part of what makes it difficult. Like nobody's, my experience with it is like nobody's reaction to you is just like, you're an okay artist or whatever. It's either you're the best or you're the worst. And like you deserve to die because you suck.
Well, and the flip side is like people will like go 1 week saying you're the best, and the next week or next month they'll be like, oh, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm just a guy, I just drawing stuff. Like, I don't know. It does make it really hard. I think that's one of the reasons why I slowed down on making videos, is because it's just like it's scary to have that much feedback, I think.
Yeah.
I know I don't like it. I get really uncomfortable by like even positive feedback to like extremely positive feedback makes me uncomfortable. Like it feels really weird.
Right.
And the negative, like obviously the extremely negative feedback also isn't great.
Right.
Yeah. And what I appreciate about getting that negative feedback is that it like has forced me, like it's almost like a collision course with your own ego, where it's like, okay, well, I have to cope with this because it's just going to keep happening. Like people are just going to talk shit, and that is like, that's fine.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
So that's helped my evolution a lot, I think, in the sense where it's like, okay, I'm not going to change these people's opinion of me, and I can't do anything to change that.
Yeah.
Nor should I even feel anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of the next level I'm trying to get to, is like, if I read something, I just go, okay.
Yeah.
And have zero, like, even, I don't even want like a heart flutter to happen or anything like that. I just want to read it and go, okay.
Yeah.
And be fine.
Very, very, very objective about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to get to that point because, like, you're a person, you're a human being with feelings, and it's like it's hard to like look at stuff objectively.
Yeah, it is hard because sometimes I get angry and I'm like, well, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, fuck you, man, piece of shit. And, I was reading. I made the mistake of reading. I was telling you I was on the Draftsman podcast, and I was reading some of the comments like this morning or something, just totally mistake, and I was like, this kid's an introvert. He has no idea what he's fucking talking about.
Why? Because you're extroverted? Because you talk to people? Or
yeah, well, I guess people assume because I'm talking to so many people, I'm very much like a.
Oh, you're too Chad to be an introvert.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
But if people met me when I was like 16, I was like too shy to like, open the door for the pizza man, and it's like extreme levels of anxiety.
It's one of those things you also learn to do. Like, you learn to interact with people and get better at that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, you're just probably older than the 11-year-old commenter that wrote that, and we should also remember that.
Right.
It's really like
right.
It's hard to remember that though too. It's the internet's weird. It is not a place for human interaction.
Yeah, it levels people out in a really positive way, but also in a negative way, because an 11-year-old has as much say as somebody who's like 50 years old with like a PhD in the thing that they're trying to say something about. Yeah,
and as I'm getting things back now, because I remember I used to go on Wikipedia and just change things and just change people's bios when I was like 11 years old. Yeah, because I thought it was funny.
It's kind of funny.
It is really funny. I made this one guy from a band. I made him 1,000 years old, and I made him like. I basically gave him like a D&D bio. He was just like a fucking, just a regular musician. Yeah. And I hope he saw that one day. Point being, it's probably just kids. And yeah, it's hard to like...
It's hard to equate the person that you're watching on a YouTube video with a real person.
Yeah. One of the things I do like, though, if I get like some really mean-ass comments, is I like it... to some extent, they're being honest. In the sense where they're like, well, such and such sucks. Okay. Whereas if I show you something, or if I show anybody else something, they'll probably be a little bit nicer about their feedback. But like when people are being assholes, they're just going to tell you what's wrong with it.
Oh yeah.
So I've found that that's actually helped me a bit, because I've like, it's helped me in a couple ways of like managing my emotions with reacting to feedback, and also kind of giving me a little bit of insight on what might not be like resonating with people. Yeah. Not that they're like the focus group or something, like YouTube commenters are the focus group of things. But yeah.
Well, I was talking to Scott Flanders about this idea of like, I've been really careful about over the past like 3 years about who I intentionally ask for critiques from. Yeah. Because I started to think about like, even the artists that I like their work, their goals are completely different from mine.
Yes.
So they're going to give me like goals. So they're going to tell me what they would do in my situation, which is probably not what I would do.
Yeah.
And thinking about it that way, it became like I'm really careful of showing or asking people for help for my artwork.
That is important. Yeah. Because like you could ask. I can think of a bunch of different artists, and if you ask them how to handle a certain problem, or how many hours should I work, or what should I be focusing on, they'll all give you different answers, because they are trying to accomplish different things. Yeah. They have different personalities than you, so they might want to experience. They might not have or not be like focused on things outside of work, and that's also kind of sad.
Right.
So like.
Well, and everything is both the right and wrong thing at the same time.
Yeah.
I heard morality described as like a keyboard, where it's like every single note is right and wrong at different times.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And
it's a great analogy.
Yeah, I read it in Mere Christianity.
Okay, yeah.
It's like I recommend the book. Okay. I'm not necessarily Christian or religious or anything, but it
Well,
defined
you
it.
sold me on it, man.
Yeah. Well, that's my entire purpose.
And now I'm going to be an evangelical Christian. And
Fuck
I'm just
yeah,
like,
dude.
I'm all
Nice.
about it now.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. But, I equate religion and the obsession with like Jesus with like people's obsession with like Lord of the Rings or
Yeah.
Avengers or something. It's like I think it's like it is very much a religious thing that people will like wear Iron Man t-shirts and have Iron Man pop figures,
Kind of.
Iron Man
Yeah.
posters on their walls.
You're aspiring to, like, you have the same sort of character aspirations from religious texts that you do from these sort of movies, and these archetypes are all repeated,
Yeah.
and the story structure is very similar. I mean, the Bible's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, it's
I've
pretty
read a
wacky.
couple chapters, I'm like, I have
What
no
the-
idea what's going on.
Oh, what the hell? Yeah,
Yeah.
complete nonsense. But,
But from what I've heard,
yeah.
the archetypes are all kind of there.
Yeah. Do you want to see how long we've been recording for?
Sure. I also want to stretch my back a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
I'm getting a little bit of a hunchback.
It's been about an hour and a half.
Cool.
And this camera has died. And I guess the card is full, so I can't do anything about it.
That's okay.
Do you want to close up and
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
You have the wide shot anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, so just switch back and forth.
Cool.
I appreciate you doing this.
Thanks so much, man.
Really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
We can listen to the audio briefly just to see if it's
Yeah.
usable. But
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, man.
Yeah,
do
no
you have any
problem.
closing thoughts or?
Just do what you love and stop asking me how many hours you have to draw per day. I don't know. I don't have the answer. And you can only look to yourself.
I do have a question for you.
Oh, sure.
Which brush pen should I get?
I have no idea.
Which pen do you use? Yeah.
I really have no idea. I use mechanical pencils most of the time, so I just like grab a random mechanical pencil.
I was being sarcastic.
I know.
Okay.
I should have answered it sarcastically.
I assumed I assumed that you were answering it sarcastically. I just wanted to affirm my sarcasm.
You know, I picked up on it, and then I was like, wait, was he not being sarcastic? So I answered in like a real way,
yeah.
but I should have just.
I appreciate the honest answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, dude. We'll call the pound.
Yeah, dude.